This is the Q Timex, and this is the Timex M79. I'm sure if you're into watches at all, you're familiar with both of these offerings. When I first saw the first teaser image for the M79, and it had that word automatic on the bottom of the dial, I knew this was a watch I just had to have. I mean, I already had the Q Timex, and I was one of the first people to get it. I mean, not first on the planet, but I was part of the first round of receiving this. Not because I jumped on it, because I actually didn't know anything about it, but I won it in a draw as a prize from Long Island Watch. So shout out to Mark at Long Island Watch for sharing this with me. And yeah, I've quite enjoyed it. I didn't wear it a ton though, partly because it's a 38 millimeter and I have an 8-inch wrist. So, I mean, I can pull it off, but it's not my preferred size. And then partly because it's a quartz. Now, for some people, they love to have a good quartz grab and go. And so this fits perfectly. People love this watch, and I can get why. It's slim, it's comfortable, so long as it doesn't nip at your hairs, and it doesn't nip at my hairs. And it's just a fun, retro-looking, but modern watch. But let's talk about the M79, because really this is why we're here. The M79 is, of course, a similar design. In the box that Timex provides, it says our M79 automatic is something entirely new, even though it might look familiar. Inspired by the 1970s Q Timex and elevated with a 21 joule mechanical movement, this watch is a fresh interpretation of a much-loved Timex icon. Well, I don't know if the Q Timex is really an icon, but it certainly has made a stir lately. All I really knew is that the word automatic was there at the bottom of the dial. It had those Batman colors that I absolutely love, and I wanted to have one. So I was really happy that Jason from My Wrist Check in Orangeville could ship me one of these right away. And boy, I loved it. Right from the get-go, right out of the box, I loved it. But then I went online and I started to see that there was a bit of a backlash against this watch. Not everybody loves this watch. So let's talk about it for a second. I've read some pretty prominent reviews and watched on YouTube some prominent reviews talking about how this watch is overpriced. At around $270 US. It's not particularly expensive. Certainly more expensive than the Q over here, but about $100 more expensive. Now, what do you get for this $100? Well, first of all, if you're a bigger guy like me, you're getting a little bit of a bigger size. And 2 millimeters doesn't seem like much, but we all know in the watch world, 2 millimeters can make a big difference. You're getting applied indices, which really gives a lot of depth to the dial, which I quite enjoy. Now, I'm wondering if maybe they are applied or not. I was listening to a reviewer on YouTube, I think it was Random Rob, who was talking about the 5K X's and how they're punched out from the back. They look applied, but they're actually punched out and pressed out. And I wonder if maybe that's what's happened here or if they are applied. I'm not a watchmaker. I actually don't really know a whole lot about watches, as you can tell. All I know is I like it. Of course, there's that Timex T on the hour hand. The hour hand is about to disappear now behind that minute hand. But I like that little detail. That little T flare is a lot of fun. And of course, at the bottom of the dial, the water resistance is printed where you won't find that with the Timex Q. The date window also appears to be smaller with the M79. And I wonder if that's to give the illusion that the dial is increased in size, but I don't know if it actually has. Now, I don't have any calipers here that could measure the width of the dial, but you can certainly tell that if this is 2 millimeters bigger than this, most of that has got to be in the bezel. And that was the biggest surprise when I first saw this in hand. Was I was expecting this, but just a little bigger with an automatic movement. And that's not what you get here. really what you get is quite a different look because of the thickness of that bezel. And at first, I'll be honest, I was a little bit disappointed, but over time, actually, I really like it. It gives it a little bit of a more masculine vibe, a little chunkier vibe, which I kind of enjoy, especially being a bigger guy myself and having an 8-inch wrist. Now, one of the things that I've heard quite a bit that's leveled against this watch is just how thick it is. And yeah, it is in comparison to this little quartz watch. It is quite thick. I mean, it's a few millimeters thicker, but it still slides under my cuff. I mean, I wore it to church the other day and I had no problem with that at all. So it certainly isn't that thick. I mean, when you look at it compared to something like this icon, then you'll start to see that in reality, it's pretty slim. I mean, it's not nearly as chunky as this SKX underneath it. And a lot of that is really that crystal, that dome that juts up there. So, I don't know. People love the SKX even though it's chunky. This is nowhere near as chunky as something like that. The other thing I've heard is, well, it's got a Miyota movement. And who would pay $270 for a watch with a Miyota movement? And I get that. That's true. Honestly, it's not my favorite movement. And one of the biggest things is that when you pull out the crown, the seconds hand just keeps on going. So when you're trying to set this to the exact second, for example, if you want to know just how much time it's losing or gaining a day, that's really hard to do. And I've found actually that this is gaining about 7 seconds a day, which isn't half bad for a $270 Timex watch. I think that when you look at the polishing on the case, the finishing, the design, the fact that it's from a recognized brand, I think there is some value to it. Is it the best value out there? Definitely not. There's some micro brands out there that can offer a lot of value for the same amount of money. I mean, Spinnaker offers all kinds of watches, you know, with similar or frankly better specs for the same amount of money. And if you really want value, here's what you should buy. I got this on AliExpress. It's a Courgette Flieger. It's got, well, it was supposed to come with a Miyota movement, but it didn't. It came with some Chinese movement. I'm not exactly sure what it is that's in there. It's got a sapphire crystal. I dropped this from 4 feet up onto concrete. It bounced a few times, scratched the bezel here, but it just keeps on ticking. Just keeps on going. This was $60 US. I mean, if you really want a value watch, this is the watch to get. But while I do enjoy this watch, and I wear it around the house as kind of a beater watch, I wear it in situations where I don't care so much about my watch. And check this out. It just doesn't have the same movement. Look at that. It hacks, which the Miyota doesn't. But I'll tell you, look at the struggle it was to get it, the crown to pull out. I don't know. When you're buying a watch, you aren't necessarily buying the specs. I mean, you want to have good specs, of course. And for the money, you can find better than this. But this is a recognized brand with a lot of heritage. And it's Timex climbing back into the automatic market. And that's something I want to support. I think the idea of Timex rediscovering its roots in the automatic market is fantastic. And I want to be part of that. So yeah, I have no trouble spending my hard-earned money on something like this. I really don't. And to me, this watch has a lot of soul, has a lot of character. Another thing that's leveled against it is the crystal. It's a Hesselite crystal. and it scratches so easily. In fact, I've already scratched it. Within the first few days, I brushed it up against a door, and it put some scratches right here. So I went online, I bought some Polywatch, I rubbed it for about 45 seconds, buffed it out a little bit more, rubbed it for another 45 seconds, and it was perfect. Scratches were completely gone. And honestly, I often didn't wear the Timex because I was worried about just that. I was worried about scratches. But now that I've got Polywatch, you know what? I'll wear this anywhere because I know that I basically can't destroy this thing. Then, of course, I'm no watch guru, but I do see people wearing Speedmasters with Hesalite crystals because I guess of the vintage vibe that goes with it. And I would say that those cost a little more than $270 or so. Now, these are some of the reasons why I like the M79. And I've kind of addressed some of the issues that I've read about on Instagram and watched on YouTube from people. But I do have my own issues with this watch. And it's not the bracelet because honestly, it doesn't nip at my hairs. It doesn't at all. It's not the size. I find it quite comfortable. It's not the dial. I love the dial. I think it's fantastic. One of the things is this crown. Now, I do love that it's signed. That's fantastic. But I can barely work this thing. Like, it is so small. I get it out with my fingernail and I can change the time, but when I want to wind it, like, I kind of have to go like this. I just need to I can't get a grip on it. So there you go. I mean, it's not a big deal, but if you're the kind of person that wants to grab their watch when they walk by the watch box, give it a few winds, make sure it's still running, you know, you want to wear it the next day and you haven't worn it for a day or two, this is tough. I don't mind the ratcheting bezel. I don't know why people hyper focus on it. If that's your thing, then, you know, I've got strange things too, so, you know, whatever, but for me, it doesn't bother me. The other thing is this gasket, though. Why couldn't they have just made a nice chunky bezel and slim that gasket down? The side profile. I don't know if you look at the side profile of your watches a lot, but I do. And I can't get behind that at all. Fortunately, when it's on your wrist, you don't see it a whole lot. You're looking at it like this, and it's all good. So there's this crown. There's that side profile with the gasket that's just so much more apparent than it was on the Timex. Overall, I'd say there's one more thing that bugs me about the M79, and it's that seconds hand. Now, the red is pretty cool. It really stands out. It's super neat, but why isn't it blue? I mean, isn't it just screaming for a blue seconds hand? I guess maybe they had a few thousand of them ordered already from the M79 and they threw those on, or whatever it was. But yeah, this would just be so killer with a blue seconds hand. You know, but overall, I'll say that I really, really dig this watch. This is something I'll be keeping for a good while and enjoying. I think it's something I'm going to throw on. I'm going to beat it up. It's a sports watch. It's the kind of watch you can wear every day, but I feel like I could wear it to the office quite easily. I can wear it when I'm wearing a shirt and tie because it will definitely slip under all of my cuffs anyway. And it's just a fun, cool piece. I think for me, it's a little bit of a piece of history as Timex is moving forward with automatic movements. And it's something, you know, I could see passing down to my kid when he's older and enjoying. This I just don't think I'll be keeping. I'm really appreciative that I won it, but I'll probably be either gifting it to someone or selling it, passing it along, because honestly, I never really wear it. So these are my thoughts on the M79. And I know that some of my thoughts may not be your thoughts, and that's cool because that's the whole thing I enjoy about watch collecting is there's so many different kinds of watches, and everyone has their own opinion. Everyone has their own views on things. Some people are going to just love this watch. I already know that thousands love this watch. And then a lot of you won't wear anything else that's not a Rolex or a Patek. I mean, and God bless you for that too. Go for it. But for me, I'm going to wear this M79. I'm going to enjoy it. And I'd love to hear what you think. Please feel free to leave a comment, like and subscribe if that's something you want to do. And if not, well, just have a great day.